Hello there, men, and welcome to the Masculinism Movement channel, a place for men to be men and talk about masculinity and men's issues. I'm your host, Brian Krall, and today I'm going to be mansplaining to you about chasing bad investments. But first, I'd like to draw your attention to the like button there. That really helps me, just in case you didn't know. Anyways, women date and have relationships with men and marry them not because they love masculinity and male companionship, but for the male social utility. They are wired to assess a man's value as a social utility and to invest in him according to it. They do not invest their time and energy into men who they do not feel will give them a good return on that investment, and will keep looking for one who will, meaning a man who they can get to invest a lot in them. And when they have found a man who they wish to get to invest in them, they then get him to do the opposite of what they have just done by evaluating and screening him. They get him to feel feelings for them that cause him to lower his defenses. And by defenses, I mean his critical thinking, his ability to evaluate what is good for him and what is not, his ability to analyze a situation or person and assess them correctly, and his ability to make long-term decisions that will serve his best interest. This is what feelings of love do to a man's intellect. His emotional mind almost completely overrides it. And once a woman gets you investing in her, just the fact that you are doing so will cause you to care more and more the more you invest. For we care about things that we invest ourselves in. We rationalize our investments by telling ourselves that we are doing the right thing because this is important. This is why people go to jobs that they hate and stay in relationships with women that they hate, because they are invested in them. And women know how this works. So the woman will start the man down a path of increasing investments. In sales, this is often called a yes ladder, where the salesperson will ask a customer questions that have positive answers, leading into questions in which, the positive answer implies a sale. And once sales are being made, they don't stop there. They continue to do what is called upselling. Once someone goes down that path and starts investing in something, they are only more likely to keep investing and invest more and more the more that they do. So a woman starts by getting a man to agree with her, and then she gets him behaving more submissively. Then she gets him supplicating to her. Then she gets him to buy her dinner. Then she continues to get him to buy her dinners, but they get more and more expensive and get paired with other things like shows and other forms of entertainment. Depending on what city you are in, restaurants and entertainment can get quite expensive too. So keep that in mind if you're like me and don't really do things like go to fancy restaurants or Broadway shows. This, of course, turns into gifts and shopping outings, and that turns into weekends together, all of course in which the man picks up all the expenses and bills. And then once you are in a relationship, you have to start to provide resources and pay the woman's bills. If you move in together, you'll be paying for most of the bills and responsible for most of the domestic duties and responsibilities too, in order to make sure that the woman is happy at your expense. And of course, marriage is the ultimate investment, where the woman appropriates half or more of the man's assets. These investments may all be bad investments on the man's part. If we were a business consultant or an accountant evaluating them, you'd probably say to the man, it looks like you've got an outflow of cash here that you aren't getting a return on and have nothing to show for. You really should plug up that leak. But the man doesn't think like that because he isn't looking at the situation rationally. He's looking at it emotionally. And speaking of emotions, these investments are not just monetary. In fact, the monetary investments occur because the woman is getting the man to invest in her emotionally as well. The more she gets him to fall in love with her and gets him emotionally invested, the more she is able to get him to invest in other ways with his time, energy, and money. So she is following a very similar investment ladder in how she uses intimacy to build the sense of emotional bond between them. The more she cultivates his sense of intimacy with her through acts of camaraderie, connection, romance, love, and sexuality, the more invested he gets, and the more she can use these investments as leverage for other things she wants from him. However, no matter how emotional a man gets, a woman cannot just shut down a man's rational mind completely. The man still does retain some sense of logic. Otherwise, he would basically become mentally handicapped and wouldn't be able to carry out many common tasks. So why else could it be that men chase such bad investments like that? Because, at some point, the man has to look at these investments through the lens of the rational mind, right? Yes. And because of the influence of his emotional mind, his rational mind then uses logic to justify continuing with this course of action. So, because of his loving feelings for the woman, he will rationalize his relationship with her every step of the way and give himself any logical sounding reasons he can come up with to continue doing what he is doing. He will chase bad investments because he is reframing them in his mind as good investments. Now, doing all this is what is called in psychology and economics sunk cost fallacy. This is the logical fallacy that keeps gamblers gambling when they are on a losing streak because they don't see it as gambling. They see it as an investment. And they don't look at each individual loss as just that, an individual loss. They look at them collectively as an investment pool that they are investing in that will eventually pay off and give them an ROI. And that the more investments they make in this pool, the closer they get to their big payoff and the bigger it will be. When in the end, they are just addicts who are enabling themselves through a logical fallacy. The same thing happens with men in relationships. No matter how many fights they get into with the woman, in which they try to get her to hear their needs, and instead she just reacts with manipulation. No matter how much she takes from them without giving anything in return. And no matter how many promises she breaks or obligations she doesn't make good on. No matter how many things she does wrong, how many problems and issues she creates, no matter how neglected or even abused she makes him feel, the man keeps investing in the relationship. Why? Because he sees all of this as relationship work with a woman he's trying to build a future with, and that it is all just part of the building the relationship and future together. He doesn't see them as individual bad behaviors that are indicative of a bad relationship with a bad woman who he was thus making bad investments in. He sees it as part of the journey of working together to build a family or home or domestic life or whatever nice words he uses to make it sound not only emotionally better, but more logical and rational and reasonable. He convinces himself that he is doing the right thing morally and philosophically. So he continues to make bad investments that don't pay off because he keeps telling himself that eventually they will. So when a woman tells him that she needs more from him than she can give to him at that point in the relationship because she doesn't have as much to offer at that point in time, but in the future, after he has helped her build herself up, then she will be able to meet him in the middle, he will believe her, of course, because he wants to. And he will work harder than she is at the relationship to try to build her up and bring her up to his level, meanwhile depleting himself more just to empower her. And then, in the end, when he has sunk so much cost into the woman and depleted his resources and livelihood and energies for her, the only choice that he has is to continue investing, hoping that the payback will come and she will replenish his energies. At that point, he doesn't really have any other options. And any options that he does have, won't seem good in comparison. Because he'll think to himself, okay, so I can continue to invest more and more in her, and as she said, it's going to pay off soon, or I can leave her and start over with nothing. So which one do you think he chooses? So you see, that is the sunk cost fallacy at work, and why men will chase bad investments like a gambler rather than just breaking away and going and finding something else to invest with and starting over. Now, entrepreneurs can do this too by investing in a project they are passionate about and has sentimental value to them, which has caused them to never actually evaluate it objectively from a purely business and financial standpoint. And instead, they will just go right ahead and start investing in it and chasing their dreams, even if the investments they are making are pretty bad and aren't paying them back. So oftentimes people like me who do what they love and try to take their passions and make them into a profession are not successful for this reason. It isn't that you can't do something you're passionate about. It's that you can't expect pure passion to convert directly into professional value. Just because you have strong feelings about something doesn't make it have a certain level of worth. This is an issue that artists such as myself often face. You may invest a lot of time, energy, and money working on a creative or artistic project that is very close to your heart and is something you're very passionate about and inspired by, only to find out that the marketplace doesn't share the same sentimental value about this thing, and all the work and time and energy and money you poured into it did not actually cause it to have a price tag that will pay you back for your work with any kind of, livable profit. That all those ergonomic resources you invested resulted in a product that didn't pay you back. Artists oftentimes never stop to do accounting and inventory the costs that they are sinking into their projects and to plan ahead and figure out if they're going to be able to make any money off of this. They simply assume that if they follow their feelings enough and put their heart into it enough, that it will work out as they felt it ought to, based upon inspirational stories we are told about how these situations have sometimes occurred for some of the celebrities out there. But every bit of time, energy, money, and work you put into something counts. And that is something you are either investing with a return or spending as waste. And unfortunately, some people think they're making investments when they're actually spending and wasting their resources. And in a business, you're supposed to account for every expense, every day's work by every employee. You are supposed to make sure it is all accounted for so that you can make sure your company is making enough profit. If you don't do this, you have no way of knowing how your business is actually going. Now, when it comes to relationships, we are told not to do any of that, to do the opposite. Don't make your relationship a tit-for-tat transactional exchange. In fact, don't even evaluate women too much because that is objectifying. You shouldn't, for instance, create a pros versus cons list about a woman. You shouldn't talk about her worth or what she has to offer you and what you are getting in return for what you offer her. As a man, you are supposed to just give to women without expecting an equal exchange in return, because that wouldn't be chivalrous. So not only do women have the means of using our emotional and our rational minds against us to get us to make bad investments in them that aren't in our best interest, but you can see how they also have social conditioning in their favor as well, creating an entire dating and relationship paradigm that favors them and promotes male investment into females. Because as I said at the beginning, men are just social utilities here for women. They are able to evaluate men and treat us like business investments for their resources and financial returns, but we are not supposed to assess them in the same ways. We are supposed to just fall in love and start sinking resources into them, engaging in the sunk cost fallacy until we have no more to give. And then we will get discarded and they will upgrade for a higher status male who can invest even more in them. So don't chase bad investments, and women are a bad investment. There is no ROI when you invest in a woman. You are only going to be sinking costs into her and wasting your money and other ergonomic resources. So go your own way and invest in yourself instead, men. And that concludes this talk. I hope I mansplained that well enough for you guys out there. Thanks for listening, and be sure to share your own thoughts and opinions by commenting below. And if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button and share the messages with everyone by sharing the video on social media and talking about these things too. And lastly, check out the links in the description below for other resources for your masculine personal development and living the life you want to as an independent man. And if you can afford to donate, please do so with the PayPal link below, because your support funds me doing this work and fighting the good fight for men like you. And you can stay tuned for the next video coming out soon, which will be on how women are bad companions. And make sure you're subscribed so you'll be notified when that is. And until then, take care of yourselves, men, because no woman out there is going to.